Hello, I'm Annette Young and welcome to the 51%, a show about women reshaping our world. Coming up, breaking the silence as French women journalists publicly denounce sexism in politics. We also talk to Lenaig Bredoux, one of the reporters behind the open letter signed by some 40 women. Plus, how romance novels in Mali are being used to increase literacy rates among women while challenging traditional views. But we begin in France, where dozens of journalists have signed an open letter denouncing sexism among French politicians. The letter, published in the French newspaper Libération, complains about how women are still being subjected to crass behaviour from both French politicians and officials. Shirley Sitbon has more.
Get your hands off. The headline goes right to the point. 40 women covering French home politics signed an editorial denouncing sexism in politics after years of silence. They describe some of the inappropriate attitudes they have experienced through the years. That's a typical question for a girl. I'll give you an answer if you come for a drink. My interest in women journalists increases with the size of their breasts. Anne Bourse, who co-signed the article, describes how the group decided to take action.
We started thinking about it after a minister made an inappropriate gesture towards one of our colleagues at an international summit. We talked about it and realized we all had had sexist experiences. Politicians didn't necessarily touch all of us because that's very serious, but we've all heard sexist statements.
The situation is just as bad for women at Parliament. In this footage, a right-wing lawmaker is interrupting a colleague by imitating a chicken.
Oh, that's enough. Who did that? Stop it. I'm not a chicken, okay?
When former Minister Cécile Duflot addressed Parliament wearing a summer dress, opposition MPs laughed and booed her. But when you ask lawmakers how they feel about sexism, they all condemn it.
I think I'm not like that. But if someone is a schmuck, slap me in the face. Don't hesitate.
Many say women should speak out against those who harass them. Easier said than done in a country where most of those who have power are men.
We have to stop pretending there's no problem. Even those of us who are not being targeted every day. Women from other professions probably identify with these cases.
The article shows the fight for gender equality is far from over.
Now, Lenaig Bredoux is a journalist at the investigative website Mediapart and one of those who signed the letter, and she joins me in the studio today. Lenaig, thanks for being with us. What prompted you and your colleagues to publish this letter?
We spoke about that a long time ago when we were together during a press conference, for example. And this winter, it was a chance discussion between a few of us. And after new incidents, we said, OK, it's not possible. We have to denounce it publicly and collectively and say, OK, it's just enough.
But can you give me details of that particular incident that occurred that galvanised people to sign this letter?
In fact, it had nothing different as what we already saw. It was a new minister who said, OK, you are so lovely, I can answer your question. For example, it's almost every day in every political party at every level of power. So we said, OK, now we have...
Enough is enough.
Enough, it's enough. And we have to say it collectively, publicly, and we have to denounce it, because it's quite difficult in France to speak about that. We see it in the society, and we journalists, we can do that. We have jobs, we have media, so we can say, OK, we want it to stop.
So was it difficult to get people to sign the letter?
It was sometimes difficult because it's still taboo, you know. It's not so easy for journalists saying, OK, I'm a victim of sexism, and for political journalists, we speak about people who what we are writing, that we are interviewing, and some said, OK, how can they react, and so on.
And they were worried about payback, I imagine.
Sometimes a few of us say, OK, maybe it's going to be hard after that. And in fact, I must say, we feel a lot of support after the Tribune. received a lot of messages, often sent by female politicians saying, okay, it's really great, you have to go on.
Lenaig, is the situation any worse in France, say, compared to the United States, Australia or England?
I think you should maybe ask British, American, Australian journalists.
But I'm asking you as a French journalist.
I understood, but I said, I think sexism exists everywhere. What we see in France, and maybe that's a little difference, it's that there is quite a tolerance to sexism, and the keywords jokes or pseudo-seduction à la française, and sometimes men say, okay, but you want that.
But in this country, Lenaig, flirtation is seen as very much the norm when it comes to interaction between men and women.
Yeah, it's normal, and you know, it's compliments. You should be happy that we say that you're pretty or that you have a pretty dress. But we just want be journalists. We don't want to have private conversations with politicians. We just want to be journalists.
Now, people tend to think that attitudes have changed in the wake of the Dominic Strauss-Kahn affair. Is that really the case?
I think some things changed. For example, 4 years ago, no journalist said, okay, we're going to write a text denouncing sexism in politics and telling what they experienced with Dominic Strauss-Kahn. But sexism did not disappear with Dominic Strauss-Kahn. And at that time, you have to remember that some reactions in France were totally crazy. Some men, even journalists, said, oh, you know, maybe the woman, Nafissatou Diallo, wanted that. Maybe, well, you know, it's not so important. We should not speak about that.
What is it going to take to eliminate sexism in politics? Is it a generational thing? Are we going to have to wait for younger people to enter the field before there is a change of mindset?
I think that younger politicians are more educated to gender equality. That's a fact. But I bet that when they get older and when they get more power, they're going to do the same things. In fact, it's a risk. It's a real risk. And that's the reason why we have to continue to fight. We have to maybe give names.
And you have to educate people as well, don't you?
Exactly. And we have, and politics has to change. Because, you know, in France, both houses of parliament are dominated by men, and parties, it's exactly the same thing. And I think more and more women are in politics, less and less men think they can behave like that.
Lenaig Bredoux, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now, they're normally associated with holiday reads, but popular romance novels are being used to increase literacy rates among women in Mali. They're also challenging traditional notions of womanhood in the West African nation.
Jarabi, in the Malian language Bambara, is the word for love. It's also the title given to an unprecedented collection of romance novels. The stories, all written by women, tell tales of young couples caught between tradition and the modern world. They're giving a rare voice to women's intimate feelings. And it's hoped they will also encourage more women to read in a country where as few as 1 in 4 women are literate.
The fact that readers can relate to each other, the setting, the problems, the characters, means this could perhaps break the negative impression they have of reading.
Mali has one of the world's worst literacy rates. Though more adult men can read and write than women, it's still less than half the population. But young women have found inspiration through these new role models.
They do very well at school. I'd like to be like them. And on top of that, they behave very well. They have good jobs in good companies, and they are very well paid.
The novels also blend Mali's traditional cultures with modern influences.
The relationships we experience every day, that's what I try to bring to my writing, because it's the reality. We think it's only in Western countries, but that's not the case. How can a young Malian woman have an online romance? That's what we can discover.
5 Jarabi titles have already been published, with more in the pipeline. It's hoped this will help Malians turn the page on a way of life where reading has been neglected and help give rise to the country's next generation of writers.
And finally, confronted with war, devastation and persecution, Palestinian artist Lenaig Bredoux went into isolation as she sought to convey daily life in Gaza. She spent more than a year shuttered in her tiny bedroom in the coastal strip from December 2013. The 28-year-old photographer says she chose physical isolation as a reaction to the onslaught on Gaza by the Israeli military and also because of harassment from Hamas officials. During the period, she produced these series of modern-day still lifes, recalling the Flemish masters from the 16th and 17th centuries. Her photos are currently on display in the Palestinian city of Ramallah. And that's it for now. And if you'd like to comment on what you've just seen, you can head to our Facebook page. That's France24 51%, or do send us a tweet at _51%. Thanks for your feedback so far, and please keep those comments coming in. Until our next program, bye for now.